Haason Reddick trade rumors are heating up, and the Jets star may be gone as analysts believe there are multiple teams, such as the Raiders and also the Kansas City Chiefs and Arizona Cardinals, who could be looking to trade for Haason Reddick. Teams that it would make sense for if he went there, and we have to talk about this. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris and Matt here. We're going to jump right into the video, as always, but real quick, make sure to subscribe to the channel, guys. We've only gone up from 4.5 to 4.8. We need to keep the momentum going, y'all. Let's go. Make sure you're subscribed if you're watching. It's fun times here, so why not subscribe? But Matt, there were a few different trades that were talked about for Haason Reddick, who obviously requested a trade from the Jets even before the season started. And there's multiple teams that probably are interested in Haason Reddick, and NFL analysts over at the 33rd team believe that a few different trades could happen, none being bigger than trading Haason Reddick, a 2025 second-round pick, a 2025 third-round pick for Davante Adams, and a 2025 fourth-round pick, along with some other ones that we'll also get into. But obviously, that's the big one, Matt. What are we thinking? I like that trade.
Yeah, so obviously Haason Reddick over the summer requested a trade from the New York Jets after getting traded to the New York Jets in April and has not even shown up at the building yet. And the Jets said, no, we're not trading you. You got to show up because we have your rights. But make no mistakes, Chris, there are definitely trade talks being had behind the scenes for Haason Reddick. Now, looking at this deal specifically, Haason Reddick, a second and a third, is definitely way too much to pay for Davante Adams. It just is. Haason Reddick is a player that last week the Jets didn't have any sacks. The Jets, their pass rush, it doesn't need desperately help, but it could really use the help of a guy like Haason Reddick, a guy who had double-digit sacks the last 2 years. The Jets need Haason Reddick back or some sort of pass rushing back on this team. Now, it also looks like our offense might need Davante Adams as well, but a second-round pick, a third-round pick, and Haason Reddick is just too much to pay. The Jets traded a third-round pick for Haason Reddick, and so this would be paying a second and two-thirds for Davante Adams. I love Davante, but this is way too much for Davante Adams, Chris.
Yeah, honestly, I more like the idea of being willing to trade Haason Reddick in an effort to get Davante Adams. So what's up? Wait.
No, I like the idea of it. I don't like the compensation. This trade, we're giving up too much for it. But I do like a pick and Haason Reddick for Davante Adams. I like that idea.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I completely read that trade out loud, and it just went in one ear and out the other when it came to the draft picks. Obviously, that is too much to actually give. But also at the same time, I would be willing to move Haason Reddick if that's what it took to acquire Davante Adams. Now, we talk about Adams enough, so we're not going to stay on him forever. But something to mention is just, as we've already talked about, Connor Hughes mentioned that the Raiders are probably going to have to eat some of that salary in a Jets trade for Davante Adams, which the Jets will compensate them more for with draft picks. But also giving Haason Reddick makes you not exactly have to take any of the salary away if the Raiders are really, really hell-bent on not eating any Davante Adams salary. So it could be a universe where I like the idea of this.
Yeah, so there are also reports coming out today that other teams, namely the Bills, which is a scary one, would be more in on Davante Adams should the Raiders be more willing to take on some salary for him. Mm-hmm. But hopefully that's not the case, because if the Bills get Davante Adams, the Bills are already 3-1. They're looking like the AFC East favorites, and I'm honestly scared of them. So I definitely don't want to see this happen. I definitely don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see the Bills get Davante Adams, and I don't want the Raiders to make it easy for the Bills to get Davante Adams. But all signs right now seem to point to Davante Adams still being the professional that we know he is and we know he will be. But people are saying it looks like he's kind of trying to engineer a trade to the Jets. So hopefully that happens. But getting back to Haason Reddick, Chris, this trade, I like the idea. Don't like the compensation. The fourth-round pick we're getting back isn't enough. What other trades you got for me?
Okay, so next up, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, where the Jets receive a third-round pick. Pretty straight up, not too messy. Now, this one I will say I'm just so in for, and I'll leave it back up on the screen just for a little bit. But I'm in on this trade. I get, I understand it's an unfortunate situation, but if you can get a third-round pick for a guy that's not playing for you and seemingly is just being very stubborn, I'm so for that.
I mean, if this trade is truly on the table, I think the Jets have to take it. Yes, the Chiefs are going to have a late third round pick, but the Jets gave up a third round pick to acquire Haason Reddick. But if you lose the pass rush potential, but in the long run, you don't really lose too much in terms of draft capital. So like this trade I like a lot better because it's cleaner. It's cleaner where we're just a pick for the player, just straight up. Now, I can't really say that's a 2025 third round pick, Chris.
That is a 2025 third
Yeah.
round pick.
So that would mean the Jets would have 2 thirds in 2025 and then no third in 2026. 2025 is a great draft. So that makes me like the trade as well. Actually, I think that would be 3 third round picks for us this year because we have the Detroit Lions third round pick as well. So, the Chiefs would get probably a great player if he played for them. But this, you can't think about it in terms of is the other team going to get? Like, are we going to make the Chiefs too strong? We got to think about it in terms of what are the Jets going to get, and a third round pick for a player who so far has shown zero interest in playing for the New York Jets. This is a great trade for me. I'm all on board with this one, Chris.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm completely in on it. Also, obviously, this is Jets Digest. This is not Chiefs Digest, but if Haason Reddick played for them, for this trade with that defense, that would be absolutely absurd. Just a side note that I do want to throw in, like, you're right, like, you still make the deal, but that would be one absurd defense. Then my Chiefs bet would look good.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Trader.
Courtesy of Matt Long. But we have another trade also where the New York Jets would trade Haason Reddick back to where it all began in a 2025 fourth for a 2025 third. I still feel similarly on the sense of like, yeah, you're giving up a fourth round pick, and I don't fully understand. I guess because the Cardinals are worse, so I do fully understand why. My brain's just moving slowly. But no, like, I'd still do this trade.
So for me, I hate this trade. This is probably my least favorite trade of all of them because we're trading Haason Reddick for a 1 round pick upgrade. We're probably moving up 30-ish spots in the draft. Or not 30, we're probably late round 4, and then the Cardinals would be early to mid round 3. So we're moving up however many spots that would be. This is, I think, the worst trade of all because we're not trading Haason Reddick away to move up a couple spots. And you were talking about you're like confused why the Jets would think about this trade instead of the Chiefs one. And it would be in the world where the Chiefs do not offer that trade. And instead, this is what the Jets had on the table. But this is definitely not enough to trade Haason Reddick for a guy who maybe doesn't want to play for the Jets, but he's contractually obligated to play for the Jets, and he's not going anywhere. So if he doesn't want to show up, he's still going to have to play for the Jets at some point this year or next year if he holds out the entire year. And a fourth-round pick to a third-round pick upgrade, honestly, the more I say it, the more I hate it. Have you seen that clip with Will Ferrell? Yeah.
No, honestly, yeah. I don't think Haason Reddick's going to play for the Jets. I really don't see him suiting up at all. I think he'll just eventually I think he believes the Jets will eventually budge. The pass rush for the Jets can be better. I feel like the more time goes on, the more it would be nice for Haason Reddick to be on the Jets. It just feels like if he's not willing to play for a team that clearly needs him, where he could show his value on the field for them, it's hard to imagine that he's ever going to want to suit up for them.
Yeah, the problem is we don't, like, if it's not the Jets, what team does he want to suit up for? It's confusing because the Jets are a contender. So the Chiefs, like, would the Chiefs, Raiders, or Cardinals pay him? We have no idea. So it seems like he's been a problem for the Eagles organization, which is why he was traded. Then has become a problem for the New York Jets organization, and it's really looking like a bad situation. Whoever ends up paying Haason Reddick, because the type of money he's been asking for, the reported $25 million to $28 million, he is not worth that. Like, he is a pass rusher. He's not an all-around monstrous defensive end, which is what he would like to get paid as. And we're talking about the Raiders in this video. Chris, Max Crosby does not make that much money. And Max Crosby is probably worth 3 or 4 Haason Reddicks.
Yeah, I mean, I agree on the Max Crosby front. But, I mean, I'm not saying I think Haason Reddick's making the right move. I'm saying this is what I think is going to happen. I think Haason Reddick's making a massive mistake. The Jets obviously become better when Haason Reddick plays for them. DJ Reed said that the other day. And, like, it's clear his teammates, at least publicly, don't seem to really mind that much about all that's going on. It seems like it's just Reddick really believes the Jets are going to give him money that the Jets are not going to give him, and he's going to keep pushing for this. It's hard to imagine what a breaking point for Haason Reddick would be, though.
So, I mean, he's got to feel more and more pressure as that. I think it was $792,000 per game.
Yes.
Yeah, every single week he's getting fined that. So he has to be feeling that. And he's getting closer to, he has to play 6 games to accrue a season. Every week we go, we're getting closer to that week 18, week 12. So week 12 is actually the Jets' bye week. So he'd have to be here by week 11. So this week 5, he has 6 more weeks to report if he wants to accrue a season for the Jets this year.
I mean, it's also important to note that the trade deadline is going to be a few weeks before week 11 too. So it's really hard to predict what is going to happen with this Haason Reddick drama because he's so clearly making this mistake. Everyone knows he's making a mistake except for him, and the Jets are adamant to making Haason Reddick learn his lesson. It's a strange situation the Jets are dealing with. They're a good team. It makes no sense why Reddick does not want to play for them. I don't really see him ever getting that money from anyone. I think he'll eventually realize the error in what he did, and it'll probably cost him more money down the line. It just seems like, with all the reports that he's willing to be this stubborn, it's hard to imagine what's actually going to happen. Matt, if you had to bet on it, do you think Haason Reddick's showing up for the Jets this season, and what week would you predict if he does?
I'm going to predict that he shows up week 11, the last possible week where he's contractually obligated to show up. I think does not want to play. And I think the Jets are not going to budge. So I think it's going to be a lose-lose for the Jets and Reddick, but it's going to be worse for Haason Reddick.
That's a fair point. Also, Reddick was going to, especially if the Jets are in the playoff picture, which they're expected to be. I mean, the schedule's not that hard. They absolutely should be. Like, Reddick's going to have to show up in the playoffs and play well if he wants to even make, I don't know, something even remotely close to that $25 to $28 million range.
Because, Chris, if he shows up and plays badly, people aren't going to pay him that money. So when he eventually shows up, and he is forced to show up, he is contractually obligated to show up, he has to play well, and he has to prove that he's worth that money. So he better show up with a fire, because if he doesn't, no one's going to pay him that money. Forget about the Jets, it will be no one.
Yeah, I've said this before. I would not be shocked if Reddick ends up going the Jadeveon Clowney rate of just in free agency for an absurd amount of time and then just keep signing 1-year prove-it deals with different teams. But guys,
definitely could happen.
Guys, we have a football game to watch. So make sure to subscribe to this for more Jets content like this. Turn on post notifications. Have a great day and go Jets. Subscriber Matt's going to lose his mind and punch me.